Then let's talk about the authority bias. My favorite person today to pounce on is Gary Gensler, who is now the chair of the Securities and Exchange Commission. And before that, I had high hopes for him because he was at MIT actually lecturing a blockchain class, albeit it's a really great class. I should say that everybody should watch at some point in time. It's freely available on YouTube. Albeit there's 3 major mistakes in there. I encourage you to find those without looking at my notes that I posted below his YouTube videos. But if you just look at his last speech, you'll find at least 10 fallacies in there. So the typical strawman fallacy appeals to ignorance, and then the last one is really the most common one, and unfortunately equivocation is something that even reporters keep repeating when regulators make statements such as the SEC is going to regulate crypto, the SEC is going to regulate stablecoins, China is going to ban cryptocurrencies, and some other nation states agencies is going to ban some blockchain-based solutions. That is utter nonsense. Well, the reason why this is utter nonsense is because blockchain-based solutions, just like any other technologies, are regulated already. They are regulated by the laws of physics, and they are specifically more narrowly by software. So what regulators are actually saying is that they are regulating the behavior of people within their jurisdiction. And I encourage you to read headlines in that context. So whenever a regulator says they are going to regulate cryptocurrencies, they're going to regulate Bitcoin, what they're actually saying is, I want you, citizens within my jurisdictions, to not be able to engage with this particular technology in a particular way. And you should always in your head translate it this way. And intellectually honest phrasing would require these individuals to phrase it this way. So it's really at the core propaganda. And the same holds true for things like central bank digital currencies. Initially, I was very hopeful reading dozens of central bank digital currency design papers, and for some time supported the efforts of central banks and gave advice on how these could be implemented, until after about a year and a half into observing the movements, meaning the mostly stalling of the implementations of those, because they are not competing with cryptocurrencies, and they're specifically because they don't address the main problems, the main externalities of fiat currencies, and they're specifically government issued fiat currencies. And the main problems, the second one being debasement, so the fact there's always going to be more, there's always going to be inflation, and government issued currency will always be worth less. But the more troublesome is really surveillance and censorship. And if you're listening in the United States, it probably doesn't affect you all that much. However, if you're living under some authoritarian government, then this is of great concern to you. So we provide free advice to NGOs that facilitate the transfer of value and information to dissidents that are being persecuted by their own government, including for such crimes as disagreeing with the government's opinion. And they're being targeted by these type of digital implementations, not like you and I being targeted to and profiled to be identified as someone doing money laundering, or which most of us obviously don't do, but for the purpose of being disappeared. And that's globally a much, much bigger problem. The other part is globally there's still about 1.7 billion people unbanked, and a lot of these people are either unbanked because they lack the necessary government credential to actually participate in the legacy financial systems. There's no indication that CBDCs will actually address that problem in any meaningful way, but a good portion of those are actually unbanked deliberately because they do not want to be surveilled, they do not trust their governments, and or they do not trust the bank. And even in the United States today, there's still more than 40 million adults that are unbanked, so that's about 6% of the US population. But globally, it's much more. There's 10 countries where more than half of their population is still unbanked, including our neighbor Mexico. And also, as a side note, 20% of the Chinese population is still unbanked as well. And they won't be banked, they will be simply surveilled by their implementation of CBDCs.